Hey, welcome to Geek Freaks. I am Frank, and today I'm joined by Kyle.
Oh my gosh, I'm back.
It's been too long. And we have Scott coming back as well.
Welcome back, nerds.
Here we go. We have a lot to cover today, mostly New York Comic Con. We're going to have a review for Silent Hill, and we're talking about that new big patch for World of Warcraft. But let's begin with our question of the week. So, you're in charge of rebooting a forgotten 80s or 90s cartoon. What show do you bring back, and is there a modern twist you want to add on it? Let's go over to you, Scott. I know you've got a few options for us.
Space Ghost.
Okay.
Right? It was like a weird, quirky cartoon talk show almost, you know? Yeah. I think if you could bring that back, modernize it a bit, almost like a Comedy Central, you know, kind of just news, telling us about stuff. I don't know. I just like to see it again. Space Ghost was a lot of fun. I know the voice actor like got screwed, you know, so we could bring him back, getting him a job, you know. I don't know. It just seemed like it'd be really fun. And we could clean it up and do some cool stuff with it.
Okay, as a kid, I had one VHS tape, or actually maybe it was two, but it had like 2 episodes each of a show I loved as a kid. And I've only ever seen those 4 episodes on repeat, maybe like a dozen times.
Dang,
it's called Mask. Have you heard of Mask?
Like based off of the movie?
The Jim Carrey movie?
No, this is basically like a vehicular combat cartoon where each...
Oh my God.
It's kind of like G.I. Joe, but they have vehicles that they race with and they transform into like combat vehicles too. And on top of that, they have these masks they put on each character, and the masks have special powers.
Oh my God.
It's so awesome. Like, think about this. Like, there's an actual mask. You know, back then there were a lot of stereotypes, right? Like that, we can't avoid that. Yeah. There's a Native American character whose mask threw tomahawks.
That is definitely something that's going to change.
I think it will. I mean, of course, you got to keep in mind modern audiences.
I love how the idea for this series is like, we like Transformers, we like G.I. Joes, we like superheroes. Let's make it all.
It's kind of like G.I. Joe and Transformers mashed up together.
Yeah.
But with the special mask thing. And it's got a catchy theme song, which is classic. Like, I highly recommend you watch at least one episode of this.
Yes,
it's incredible. Like,
I'm
love that
try to find the trailer
so much as a kid. It's amazing.
I'm gonna try to find not the trailer, but like the intro for it and post it on our social media.
It's so badass. It's a banger.
That's wild. For me, it's gonna be Gummy Bears, which was a fantasy series for kids back in the early 90s.
Gummy Bears.
Yeah, and I want that brought back, but I want a serious Netflix style anime version of it where we're actually talking about like politics in medieval times. And there's this faction of hidden bears that drink this certain, like, you know, mystic river that they have that, you know, transforms them into warriors, not just bouncing warriors, but warriors. And that would be a lot of fun. And like, now I'm like thinking like D&D, but gummy bears.
D&D, but gummy bears.
Interesting. Okay. I could kind of see that actually. Yeah. That'd be fun.
That's what I want. We talk about this because Mike Flanagan is actually bringing back Carrie, Stephen King's Carrie, for a series. And I actually think that would be a very good series. I think the idea of like, you're building up, like Carrie's got a terrible mom, she's being teased at school. And then all of a sudden they kind of prank her into like, oh, don't you want to be prom queen? And then she becomes prom queen and then loses it. And we could have hints to her psychic abilities throughout the series. I think that would be a pretty good series. What do you guys think about that?
If it's just the original story, I struggle to see how long you can realistically draw that out without it just being boring after a while. You know, like the pacing could be off. But if you're willing to, and obviously Stephen King is willing to let you, you know, take creative license with it and add to the story and enhance the story. I mean, yeah, you know, Carrie's simple but effective, I think.
First of all, Mike Flanagan, everything he does is pretty much quality. Like, I love everything he makes. Fall of the House of Usher last year was easily my favorite show last year. Yeah. And he's done other great ones like Haunting of Hill House and Bly Manor, as well as Midnight Mass. That's a really underrated show, I think.
I haven't seen that one yet. We were all discussing those 4 shows, and none of us had seen Midnight Mass yet. So we're like, okay, we got to watch that.
Oh, you have to. It's a very slow burn, but the ending is incredible. Like, I highly recommend it.
All right.
Yeah. And Yeah, for adapting Stephen King stuff, he's done Doctor Sleep already. So why not have him do Carrie? It makes total sense.
Speaking of Doctor Sleep, just to kind of plug another show, of course, is over on Channel Accepted. We just covered The Shining. That episode is coming out. Matter of fact, it's coming out today. That's funny. It's actually in the hopper for today. So we talk about The Shining, and then of course it leads into Doctor Sleep, which is the sequel to it. So. Let's dig into New York Comic Con. There are so many things announced. We have an article over on the website where we talk about a lot of the things, but there was even more than that. So just keep that in mind, guys. But let's start with what are a couple of our favorite hitters. I'm going to begin off with Marvel's big event for 2025 is going to be Rise of Emperor Doom. To catch you guys up on what's going on with Dr. Doom. First off, yes, he's coming to the MCU, so that's a big deal. But in the comic books, he has taken the mantle of Sorcerer Supreme from Doctor Strange. He stole it. And with those new powers, this amplified magic abilities of his, he's now claiming to be the Emperor of Earth. The trick with this run is that some of the heroes think it's a good idea. They're like, is it so wrong for him to just take charge so that he helps protect us from outside forces and whatnot? And that reminds me so much of like the Civil War kind of storylines where heroes will fall on either side of this. And I like that. And we're in the kind of a political year now. It won't be when this comes out, but there are questions of kind of like, what's wrong with this? What's right with this? And that kind of nuance is really fun in a comic book to explore, especially when you got Doctor Strange. So I'm looking forward to that one. And that's going to be a 5-issue series with, of course, spinoffs coming out February 2025.
I got to raise my hand and ask a question.
Of course.
Is Doctor Doom a good guy in this?
He's always a bad guy. He's always a defender anti-hero of his nation, I should clarify. Sure. And oftentimes that puts him at odds with other people. So there are times when it's like, is there a threat to Earth? I'll defend Earth because my nation, Latvia, is on Earth. And
okay. He's got motivations. Yeah. Okay. We got it.
He does. He's one of the better characters Marvel's ever created. And he's coming to the MCU, helmed by Robert Downey Jr. of all people. So this is a good time to kind of start bringing him back up and getting him out there for everybody else. Let's go to one of your guys' favorites. Where was some of your picks from this one? Let's go with you, Kyle.
They showed a new Wolfman trailer, which was pretty cool to me. I like the Universal Monster franchise, and always nice to see like a reboot or a refresh of that whole genre of cinema. It looks pretty good. I think Julia Garner will do a good job personally because she's a great actress. Like I loved her in Ozarks. Yes, thank you. And yeah, I think it'll be a slam dunk. Hopefully, it's got decent prosthetic use and practical effects. That's what I'm hoping for. It looks like personally.
It's mostly it's like it's lower budget, and they went back to the old school way. It's like mostly practical effects, and that has me excited. And it goes from like this, like being hunted by a werewolf to being stuck in a cabin with a werewolf, and that kind of smaller set makes it more intimate, makes it a little bit more frightening. I'm really excited for this project. I think it's gonna be good.
That's pretty much what caught my interest primarily from these announcements. But there's also the Spider-Man 2 news of no DLC, which was crazy. Like
that's insane.
I can't blame them because everything got leaked, but it's still unfortunate that they felt the need to nix all of that content just because of that.
Do you feel ripped off as a consumer? Because they kind of promised, right, that we're going to get this like Venom DLC or, Carnage follow up and stuff like that. Do you feel ripped off, or do you feel like the base game's what you bought and any extras would have been nice?
I don't recall there being like a season pass included with like the special edition, which is what I bought. I didn't buy like the whole collector's edition shebang, but I think for the digital deluxe edition, it just came with what was promoted, like the extra suits or whatever. Yeah. I don't think there was ever like a season pass you could buy beforehand. So I do feel like I got a full package with the game. I loved it personally, even though I've heard like some complaints about it in the post-release analysis of it. But yeah, I enjoyed it for what it was. Like I thought Venom was incredibly well done in that game. It was a disappointment that he won't get DLC, but maybe they'll save it for the third game. That's
the thing, is if they hadn't announced this. So first off, we also are hearing that it's coming out beginning of next year on PC. So if you guys haven't played it yet because you're a PC only person, don't worry, it's coming your way. And I do feel like it's completely worth the $60-$70 that I paid for the original game. If they had announced this with the idea of like, by the way, in 2026, the next game's coming out, would have softened the blow from this, because then it goes from like, well, all that DLC content might have been too big. And we could have gotten like that Miles Morales type of thing we got out of the last one, where maybe it's a half game for cheaper or something like that. that would, I think, soften the blow. Unfortunately, we didn't get any updates on a new game coming
I
out of
agree.
Insomniac.
It would have been a positive spin on that bad news, but I guess they just took the L.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if Venom is they started work on a Venom DLC, then you always have to ask, well, how much can you really charge for a DLC? I think it's usually a maximum about $40, like a
Right.
$39.99 people might pay, which is I think maybe what Phantom Liberty was, or it was $29.99. Either way, like 30 anywhere $20 to $40 for a major DLC seems to be acceptable right now. And maybe they think, no, we can just make a Venom game and get $70 out of it, But it is strange that they didn't even say that, There's
You didn't play it on PS5, right? Because you're a PC man. Are you picking this game up as a PC player?
I'll probably pick it up. I'll probably wait till it goes on sale though.
Okay.
Understandable. Yeah. It's a 2-year-old game, I think, at this point. Or 1-year-old. Sorry.
Yeah, it's still very worth it in my opinion. Like the story is immaculate and the world is so wonderful. It's one of those games we talked about in the past where like traversal is so important to make a game good.
Oh,
this
flawless.
is it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They took what already was working well and like, how about gliding? And I was like, yes, it works great. So,
yeah, I will say, every time like I've watched someone else play it or whatever, just watching them, web through the world has always been pretty neat to see. So, that does look like a lot of fun.
Did you play the first one by chance?
No, I haven't bothered with any Spider-Man games.
We might have to get you set up with that first one. The ending of the first one, actually, I streamed back when I used to stream stuff. But the ending of the first one was like, this is cinematic. This is a movie, if not better. Yeah, it was so good.
I was there for that. It was a great moment.
All right, let's Scott, what's some of your picks from New York Comic Con?
The two things that I'm most interested in would be Creature Commandos.
Yeah.
Although I'm a little concerned that maybe it'll be too much just like another Suicide Squad. Which Suicide Squad it's a mixed bag, right? The first movie was it was okay. The second movie I thought was actually pretty enjoyable, but it's been a mixed bag. And then we had the Suicide Squad video game, which I think released.
It released and bombed so hard.
It bombed. Yeah, exactly. Like I had to remember, did it actually release? Because it was such a disappointment for everybody.
I wish Squeaks was here for that because I never really got to hear his thoughts on the game.
Yeah, I know he just stopped playing, and I know Thomas returned for one of the DLCs, and the DLC was so half-assed that he's just like, this is a waste of my money. So yeah, I think across the board it's been meh. But as for the Creature Commandos, does it feel different than Suicide Squad? To me, I get a little bit of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen vibes from it because it kind of brings in those universal monsters. And I think that's a really fun way to play with it. The pitch that Amanda Waller just can't use humans, like there's a law that Congress says you can't use humans, that feels kind of empty. That's easy enough to get around. Yeah. But I do like the idea of like, hey, let's use this to bring in Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde or something like that. I'm all for that. That would be cool.
Yeah, I think, first of all, DC just seems to work better on the small screen.
Yeah, it does.
DC movies in general, the entire DCEU has been very mixed bag, very just kind of unenjoyable. Everyone has a couple movies that they like, but overall, the entire universe has been a flop. But, like the Harley Quinn show on HBO is really good. The Batman right TV now. Shows are always successful. Teen Titans, you put, Gotham, you put DC on a decent television show with decent writers and they do very well. The Flash, Great Arrow. Like, I think this is the way to go and just stop trying to be in the MCU.
Especially after the second Joker movie that just came out.
Oh,
yeah, like, come on.
Madam Web's over there like, we're looking pretty good over here, guys.
Indeed.
Yeah, like you need to win some goodwill from the fans back.
Well, I think they are with James Gunn, though.
Solid. You know,
I think James Gunn, first off, he's the one that's leading this Creature Commando. And if there's anybody who knows how to make those found family superhero movies with Guardians of the Galaxy, the second Suicide Squad that you talked about, those are James Gunn projects. The fact that he's doing this and everything else with DC is very promising in my opinion. But also his casting choices so far with DCU and the words that we're hearing out of him from like bringing in Crypto the dog and stuff, feels like he's just like, you know what? We know that you guys like the comic books. We know what you guys like, what you've already known. Let's just perfect that instead of trying to. It's the Blizzard model, right? Like, we're not going to invent something new. We're just going to make it more polished. That's what he's doing with the next era of DC, and I think that might be a good move. So while, yes, up to now, small screens where they thrived, I'm hoping we're entering in a new era of them taking over the big screen. This last phase of DC has been very rough to watch on the big screen. I'm hoping we're past that. And I think we are based off of what I've seen so far in the casting.
I was going to ask, isn't the new Penguin show pretty good?
Fantastic.
It's fantastic. Okay.
Yeah, I haven't sat down to watch it yet, but I've heard nothing but good things about it. You know, once again, TV show. You know, my other one was Secret Level. They did what was it, Death, Love, and Robots or whatever, which was weird because it was like,
but very well done.
Here's an episode that it's its own just little 20-minute story or less sometimes, you know, and then that's it. Now there's another episode and they're not even related. In the world today, you know, not everything needs to be the next Game of Thrones, the next MCU. Sometimes you just want those bite-sized tales, you know, those short story kind of format, you know, which we see in, you know, the shift from maybe long form YouTube to short form TikToks and reels and shorts and whatever, you know. So I think, you know, the creators are pretty much the same creators. It did a great job before. And I think it could go really well.
This go around, though, of course, with the next level is that every one of the stories, instead of being so isolated, are in a familiar video game universe. And like for the one that I'm most excited for is God of War. They're going to be using the 2018 world. And I think that's a good way of kind of having this creative tissue, like we see with something like Black Mirror, where the idea is that, oh, it's, you know, the future tech and stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. I think that there's going to be a lot of good stories there. Is there any particular world you guys would want them to visit just to show a little bit of what's going on in that world?
Oh, within the series?
Secret level. Yeah.
Okay. Me personally, I've never dabbled into anything Warhammer, so I'm kind of curious to see what that's about. I'm excited to see what they do with that. Hopefully it captures my interest and I can explore more titles within that franchise. Because I know Cavill's
making Warhammer too, so
I'm looking forward to that. And Voltron, interestingly.
So busy. Yeah.
I'm really just kind of interested to see where they go and what they choose to do. And then there's a feeling of maybe it's an experiment, you know, like, let's throw out a Warhammer cartoon and see if people like it. Maybe we have a new Warhammer animated series, you know, that's kind of the play here. But you don't have to invest in an entire first season of something just to watch it flop.
And Prime that's making this is also making, there is a God of War series that's already in the works. And Prime that's making this is making that. So it would be nice for them to kind of like touch like, oh, you know what? This part of that worked. This part didn't work. So let's, you know, bend and tweak and make it work. So that'd be really nice.
I just heard, I read on IGN that the God of War show just had its complete showrunner and production crew like walk off the show.
Oh, jeez.
So that's probably been
that's not
on hiatus now. So
that's not good. That does not bode well.
They all just we're like, we're done with this.
That is breaking news. I didn't hear about that yet.
I would not get your hopes up, folks. I would just
as of yesterday. Yeah, that happened.
Yesterday. Okay. Well, you know what? Prime, just hire us. We'll take care of it for you guys. I'll play Kratos. I'll have to do some push-ups, whatever, but I'll get in shape for it.
God, that's like the Vampire the Masquerade sequel that's supposed to be coming out. Sequel used loosely.
Never coming out.
I mean, even if it does come out, honestly, as far as the major fandom is concerned, it'll be garbage. So just know that.
My big thing, my next big thing, my last big thing I want to make sure to bring up is Daredevil Born Again. We have an official release date now of March 4th, 2025. We talked about this in the past, that this is one of the first shows that has a showrunner, a show Bible. It's being restructured under the Bob Iger, Kevin Feige involvement. The first show to actually have a showrunner and show Bible of the Disney Plus era is Agatha All Along. And the perception of Agatha All Along so far has been spectacular. It is one of the best shows that Marvel has put out on Disney Plus. I'm absolutely loving every single week, and to see the changes already in place that like, hey, it's a smaller budget, but it's more about character driven stuff. Who'd have thunk that people want that on a TV show? The fact that they're doing that with Daredevil has me so excited for this. Vincent D'Onofrio coming back as Kingpin. We have Charlie Cox, of course, returning as Daredevil, and we have confirmation that John Bernthal is returning as the Punisher. So
awesome!
I can't wait to get back to Hell's Kitchen, guys. It feels like they didn't completely ditch the Netflix thing, but they're also kind of making sure it's a little bit more MCU-ish. Scott, what do you think about them bringing back Daredevil?
I'm not like a Daredevil fan per se, so I don't really have an investment in this. I did try to watch the TV show and I ended up falling asleep. So I'm not sure what that means. I was also working a lot, so maybe I was just tired. For me, I just kind of wonder, do we need another Daredevil show right now?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I haven't watched the Netflix show at all with Charlie Cox, but I know of him in the Spider-Man movies. He made cameos as Peter Parker's lawyer, and I enjoyed those scenes that he was in. And he was also in, I believe, Hawkeye and Echo, if I'm not mistaken.
He's in Echo. I don't know about the Hawkeye one, but I know he's in Echo.
I think he showed up in one of those shows. Maybe it was the one with Black Widow's sister.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
He's important. Well, just real quick, he's important because he is the forefront of the grounded level of Marvel stories right now. Because so much of Marvel can get lost in the Asgardian effects and even Spider-Man who's trying to save all of New York. What's nice about Daredevil is he's trying to save a street from a corrupt mob boss. And it's something that was like literally you could read about in any newspaper today, is that there's like some mob boss that's getting a little out of control and you just wish there was somebody who stayed up against them. Or like there's a corrupt politician. So that's where Daredevil comes in, is he brings in that grounded front, the things that literally affect you on your day-to-day basis. And that's why Daredevil is so relatable to a lot of people. I grew up loving him because he's a good old Catholic boy like me. And it was fun to see like, oh, look, he's still, in that stuff. And so as long as you see something in that character, and I think for Daredevil, there's a lot of people who see stuff in him, pun not intended with him being blind, but you see what you can from him. But I do think he's needed for Marvel to lead that grounded force, because sometimes you get lost in the Thor, you get lost in the cosmic stuff, and it's like, okay, it's cool, but I don't see any value in it.
That's what I was going to bring up as well. It's like the scale. I think the scale of Daredevil being smaller than the rest of the heroes will just focus more on like the character development of, the villains and the heroes and the story that are introduced in that show. And I think overall it'd be a good way of bringing Daredevil back into the fold of Marvel, like into that universe.
Yeah.
Because I think that Netflix show is kind of not tied into the rest of it.
It references it, but it's not. They have said it's like loosely canon. This is going to be fully canon. Is there a chance? Okay, so Scott, you gave it a shot. Kyle, you haven't given it a shot at all. Are you guys interested in watching that Netflix version of Daredevil, which is now on Disney Plus, by the way, too? You wanted to see it over there. Would you give that a shot now? Like Kyle, for you, who hasn't seen it at all?
It's 3 seasons, right? That's a bit of a commitment. I think I'll just wait for this new one, Born Again, to get into the show and the character. But go ahead, Scott.
I mean, I'll probably go ahead and give it a shot once I'm done watching Lost, finally. No spoilers, guys. I'm only on season 4.
Stop there. There's your spoiler. Stop there. You're fine.
No, keep watching. It's worth the ride.
Oh, man. Okay. I mean, I'm not against giving it another try. Like I said, it was a time where I was working a lot of hours. And I remember, my roommate at the time, he was watching it. I just kind of sat down on the couch, and next thing I know, I was knocked out. So, I mean, maybe I was sleep deprived, or maybe I was bored, or maybe a little bit of column A, column B. We'll find out. I'll try it again and let you know, though.
Man, those good old days of you and your roommate playing video games, man, that takes me back. Oh man, that's funny. Is there anything else you guys want to shout out from New York Comic Con that you think we should be bringing up?
You probably want to just briefly cover all the Star Trek stuff.
Yes, I do. Let's just touch on it real quick because I know that kind of deserves its own thing. But yeah, Lower Decks is coming out the 24th, so that'll be out this week. It's the final season for Lower Decks. Starfleet Academy has already been renewed for a second season, which is impressive. And they're adding Tatiana Maslany, which is She-Hulk. So if you guys are She-Hulk fans, she's joining the Star Trek universe. As a reminder, Robert Picardo is coming back as well as the Doctor. Jonathan was able to talk to him at the convention about that.
Cool.
Strange New World season 3 has just wrapped the filming, and we heard that Rhys Darby is in one of the episodes from Our Flag Means Death. He's so fantastic, and I really hope he just plays that character in space. I'd be happy with that too. And Section 31, which is a Star Trek kind of like secret agent movie that's coming out January 24th, and that's going to have Michelle Yeoh. We got our first look at that with some of the cast and stuff. So it's going to be a really good time for Star Trek fans, as it has been for a couple years now. So we're living pretty good right now. And then another thing just to quickly touch on is, of course, Absolute over at DC's been taking off really quite a bit right now. Absolute Wonder Woman's coming out this week, but they also announced that Absolute Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter, and Flash are also in the works coming out in 2025. So if you are liking the Absolute line, this idea of characters with just a little bit of a twist in their backstory and how much that changes them, more of those are on their way too. They're building up that Absolute Justice League that I know we all want.
So Dune, right? They've got like a Dune prequel going on. So is this the next Game of Thrones? You know, like are they trying to build a huge flung franchise, you know, like the MCU, you know, around the Dune universe? You think that's what's coming?
So yeah, it's coming out November 17th, by the way, guys, if you guys want to tune in on that. But it's 10,000 years before the events of Dune, and it's going to be all about the foundation of the Bene Gesserit. And it is based off the book. It's based off of Sisterhood of Dune. So there is some source material, which always makes it turn out a little bit better.
It usually helps, yeah.
Yeah. I'm cool with it because I think already just in Dune, there's so much political intrigue between the families. If we could amplify that into a series, like we were talking about with DC, right? Like on the small screen, you can let it breathe a little bit more. And I think with the Dune movies, that might not translate super well. Like I think the battles in the Dune movies are so much cooler, or in the world discovery, that sometimes we don't get to let the Harkonnens and the Atreides really breathe. This might be a place for that.
It has potential. I think, you know, there is a lot of different ways they could go about this. Like I've always loved the idea of each season being like a different focal point in the universe. Like each season could be like its own family focus. Yeah. Like one season's Harkonnen, one season is the Atreides, and one season would be like, you know, the Fremen. Like that could be really cool. But
that would be cool
because it's so far back. I feel like this may be like a 1 or 2 season companion piece to the movies, and they'll stop it there.
Yeah, and I wonder
they'll call it there.
Okay. I think so. Yeah,
I think there's a lot of content there, and the Dune movies have gone over pretty well. Every studio is looking for like the next Game of Thrones, the next MCU, and you know we've seen like Rings of Power flop. But if the Dune TV show, you know, this new show does well, I don't see why they wouldn't just keep milking it, you know. And I don't say that even as a bad way. Like it's a kind of a completely new universe that hasn't been done a million times before. With
a 10,000 year time span too, you could really play around with it, and like you could just go ahead and make shit up at a certain point, you know. Like much of House of the Dragon's doing, and kind of freeball it a little bit. Yeah, I think it's a good move. I think it's a good move all around. We're not going to lose, that's for sure.
Absolutely. We're just eating it all up.
Yeah. Silent Hill remake we got out right now. Kyle, you're playing that. How's that been?
Yeah, I finished it just this past weekend, and I would say overall it's a faithful remake. There are, of course, a little bit of issues with pacing. Like there's a lot of padding in between story beats, so it does make it feel like a more drawn out experience, which I was all for. I'll take more of anything. But I feel like it does have a little bit of circumstances where it doesn't live up to that original, like just the way the atmosphere of the story is. Like certain characters are not brought back, to full effect, in my opinion. Like Maria in particular, she's really central to the story of James, and I feel like they could have done a bit better with her. But I felt like James overall was really well done. Like the voice actor they found for him is fantastic. and just the look and feel of the game, like with its surrounding environments and the music they faithfully kept in as well. Overall, I think it's a solid remake. I
Mhm.
do feel like it's a bit too long in certain spots. They could have maybe cut a couple hours out of the whole game in general, just to kind of give it a brisker flow of gameplay and story, to better blend
Yeah.
itself. Overall, I think I give it like are we on letter grade still or numbers?
No, we're doing out of 10. We've been doing out of
Out of
10 for a
10.
while now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. That's solid. Now, the pacing issues that you're explaining, are those something that's inherent to the original game, just not being aged well? Or is that something that they added with the remake?
I think with the remake, they just wanted to expand the town of Silent Hill as well as James's like journey. Because if you haven't played Silent, I don't want to spoil it, but there's a lot to the protagonist and his actions in the story.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of needlessly complicated portions of the game with combat. Like they throw a lot at you at times, and it just felt to me like they were padding the length a little bit,
Yeah.
just to justify it being like a whole $70 remake. And that's fine
fair.
and all.
Yeah, and is a more open world. It feels like they kind of like try to give you more open world spots. Does that make sense?
It does. I think they fleshed out the town in particular because that's where each of the levels, so to speak, branch out from. And they did a really good job with like the interconnectivity and the level design. That was probably my favorite part of the game, was re-exploring the town and finding all these different, rewards for going out of my way to explore the whole town, as opposed to, just being straight linear how it used to be in the original. However, it does break the pacing. It does interrupt like, the story beats, so they're more far apart.
Yeah.
I felt like if they made that just a little bit shorter in between, it would have been a more effective remake.
So you're giving it an 8 out of 10. Do you feel like it's worth playing right now at the 79 or whatever price point it's at?
I mean, I will always recommend playing the original first because you can easily install the enhanced PC edition, which I think is the definitive way of enjoying the game. I still think it's a great remake overall, but there could have been a bit more editing.
Yeah.
Just to kind of get that length down to like maybe 12 or 15 hours. I think that would have been a little bit more digestible for a new player.
Yeah.
But for me, I enjoyed every second of it. I thought it was fantastic through and through, especially the recreated environments, like just the visuals. I can't express how good the reflections are, like in the water in this game, because they look lifelike. It's crazy.
Did it capture the same feel for you that you did when you first played the game?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think overall, yes, it did.
That's hard to
do. It was through and through like a beat for beat remake. Like they completely honored the original's legacy.
Yeah.
And I do respect Bloober Team for that. I think they had a huge task of recreating this really monumental game in survival horror history. Silent Hill 2 is easily like the most well received of the games, I would say, because of how the story is so effective in portraying the psyche of the human mind. And overall, Silent Hill 2 is really hard to, I would say, for any developer to effectively fully recapture. But Bloober Team did it. I think they did a great job overall. I just think that length of the pacing, they didn't mesh very well together. So that's why I give it an 8 out of 10. I think
8 out of 10.
Did capture it though.
Hopefully, the Bloober Team gets some more projects like this. I like the idea of bringing back some of the classic horrors. There's something there. Cool.
They have remarked that they're open to making more Silent Hill remakes. So hopefully, they do Silent Hill 1 next.
Yeah.
That's the one that definitely needs a remake because it's still stuck on the original PlayStation, and they haven't had anything remastered or anything. So
Silent Hill 2 is the one
next.
I think I heard the most hype about. If I remember correctly, that's the one Squeaks was like losing his mind for. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I just recommend if you haven't played it before, if you've only watched like YouTube playthroughs of the PS2 version, like the original, I would highly recommend playing the enhanced edition on PC of the original game. But the remake is fantastic if you're a returning player.
If you're a returning player. Okay. Yeah, I haven't played any of them, so I am kind of looking for a good horror game to jump into for the Halloween season. So maybe I'll have to give that one a visit. That's pretty cool. All right, let's do some network news before we head out. First of all, we have Outlast podcasts coming out every Thursday. Love it. This has been a really good season of Survivor so far. Actually, while we're talking about it, what are your two favorites? Share your two favorites for the season.
Oh, goodness. I like Kyle. Being a Kyle, I like Kyle. So I have to say that.
He's a few people's favorites, actually, from what we've been discussing. Yeah.
And with this last episode, I really like Andy now, which is a shock.
That is a freaking shock. I'm still wanting him out. I'm so tired of him.
I think it's going to be an incredible redemption story waiting to happen with him.
Yeah, kind of like we got Emily last season doing that too. Yeah, we'll see. It's been a good season though. I mean, I think we got merged this week, so make sure you guys tune in for Outlast podcast. That'll be a good one to talk about. That'll be fun. Over on Challenge Accepted, we're covering every episode of Agatha All Along, and we have The Shining coming out this week. And this is breaking my heart, but Thomas challenged me to watch the final Twilight movie because I had never seen it. And so, now I have to watch Twilight. And his wife's all excited that they're forcing me to watch Twilight. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not happy about it. Give me some horror movies. Come on now. But yeah.
It's Halloween. What is this?
Who's Got Next Game podcast just had their Xbox 360 tournament come out where they're discussing the best couch co-op Xbox 360 games to play. And there was some really surprise hits in that they're talking about. I was like, oh yeah, I remember loving that game. That was a lot of fun. And then Fandom Portals is talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender and going into the fandom behind Avatar and why it's such an evergreen franchise and what's coming up next for them. So check out Fandom Portals. That's Aaron out of Australia. It's always good to hear from him. And then let's end off with our recommendations. My recommendation of the week is that we have the premiere of the final season for What We Do in the Shadows. That is a fantastic vampire series that I just love. Our review for that first episode is coming out ideally today on a Tuesday. And yeah, it's a great show. If you like sitcoms, if you like a little bit of horror, I mean, not even horror, I wouldn't even call it that, but yeah, it's definitely vampires. It's a blast to watch. Do you guys have any recommendations for this week? Let's start with you, Scott. You got any recommendations for us?
Well, first I wanted to ask you, is he making you watch part 1 and part 2?
Oh, good question.
The last movie, or do you?
Oh my God, right. There's two parts.
Yes. Yeah. They did like a Deathly Hallows.
I'm walking out. I'm quitting that podcast. Fuck
the
that.
last book is split into 2 movies. Now, if you can get away with only watching part 2,
there you go.
That's not so bad.
Is that it's the 5th movie he told me. Is that the final? Is that part 2? Is the 5th movie?
Maybe. I feel.
Oh God!
I want to say there were 4 books. So yeah, the last book was split into 2. Yeah, if you're watching just the last one, I mean, of course you'll have no idea what's going on, but that's okay. You don't really need to.
Yeah, I watched the first 4 because there was a girl I liked that I went to the theaters to watch them with her, type of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, I did my due diligence. The last I think I remember was they had a baby. Is that a thing?
Okay. Yeah. So that would be the second to last movie.
Okay, so good. I don't have to watch 2 movies.
When they had the baby. Yeah, so that's basically
lucky for you.
Part 1 of the last book.
Okay. I'll watch some YouTube video that kind of that reminds me of the story of like, you know.
You should be fine. I will say, because my girlfriend made me watch. Well, I had run out of my own books to read, and I didn't want to go buy new ones, because I was broke. And my girlfriend was like, she had the whole Twilight series. She's like, you should read this. I was like, why would I do that to myself? What are you talking about? But she kept saying like, yeah, check it out. And I was like, all right, fine. So I read the first book, and now rightfully so, it's for teenage girls, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't written for me. But the books, I did go ahead and I was, once I start a series, I'm gonna read the whole thing, and it wasn't bad. The book series is better than the movies, hands down.
Okay.
Bella is a much less annoying character. And things are explained better, so it's a little less weird and creepy at times.
Okay.
I mean, Edward is still a problematic stalker character, but for the most part, the books are actually decent, I would say. So if you ever are just really bored and want to try something new, you can give them a shot.
I've got a lot of books I still got to go through that I'm actually interested in, so it'll be a bit before I get to those.
So backlogs are huge.
Yes.
If you find some extra reading time and nothing else to read, okay. But for my recommendation, I would say, so Steam has what's called Next Fest going on right now through the month of October.
Oh my God.
And it's a bunch of games that are demos, right? Just demos of things that are coming out in a reasonable amount of time. So it's not like, oh, this game's not going to be out for years. And I had a couple shout outs. I played a number of demos, but I really enjoyed Jotun Slayer Hordes of Hell, which is like one of those bullet hell, like a Vampire Survivor type game.
Yeah.
And I had a good time with that. If you're into games like that, you'll probably enjoy it. But yeah, go ahead and check out demos. They're free. My other one it's called The Precinct, where it's like an isometric, like top-down view of you're playing a cop, and you're basically like the opposite of playing Grand Theft Auto, but you still get to drive really fast, crash into people, and shoot at them. So instead of being the criminal, you're running around catching the criminals, and oddly, you're doing a lot of the same things. But yeah, I don't know. It was I went into it like, how good can this be? But it was actually kind of fun. I was like, okay, I might get this, depending on how much it costs. So yeah, there's a lot of neat demos up there. Go ahead and give them a shot. Yeah, that's all I really have.
That's good. Next Fest on Steam, guys. Check it out. That's good. That's a really good shout out. I forgot about that. Kyle, what do you got, man?
Okay. Halloween time. Let's get some horror game recommendations in. All right. So I've been busy, not just with Silent Hill 2, but I also played through Signalis. It's a indie horror game that is very much, similar to old school Resident Evil and Silent Hill. Yeah. Fantastic, really short, like not even 9 hours. I highly recommend that. It has everything you would love about survival horror. It's fantastic. Also, Alan Wake 2. That I just finished that like last night as of this recording.
The game
I loved
Halloween
it.
2?
Alan Wake 2.
Oh, Alan Wake 2. I'm like, Halloween 2, the movie. I'm like, what?
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, Alan Wake 2, though. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, it was so good. I thought it was absolutely genius. Like the story and the combat. Like I felt like it was better than Silent Hill 2 Remake.
Wow, that's high praise. Do you need to play Alan Wake 1 to I have it, I just haven't finished it.
It would help, but it's not, I don't think it's necessary. You could just watch like a brief YouTube recap of the first game. You'll be fine.
Perfect.
The Lake House, the new DLC is coming out today on this recording day. So I'm going to be playing that after this podcast. I'm excited because it's like a continuation of Control a little bit. So I highly recommend those three.
I have a hard time finishing games, clearly. And as soon as I finish Valhalla, I'll put a review for Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
I'm definitely with you on that. It's been a while since I think I've finished a game.
It's a struggle, man.
You gotta do it. You gotta finish those games. Get them out of your backlog. Do it. It's a great feeling. It's a good feeling.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for joining us. Please drop a review and check out all the other podcasts on the Geek Freaks Network. We appreciate it so much. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye. Bye.
See you later.